Hello and welcome to another video. This is Hachihonmatsu Station. Now, Hachihonmatsu Station is the highest station above sea level on the whole of the Sanyo line. It's 255 meters above sea level. Some documents say 257, but we'll go with 255. The next station on the line heading towards Hiroshima is Seno. It's 10.6 kilometers from Hachihonmatsu. More importantly though, it's only 53 meters above sea level. Which means that you don't have to be a genius to realize that between Hachihonmatsu and Seno, there's a pretty significant slope. Now, fair enough, a distance in height of just over 200 meters over a distance of 10 kilometers is not really that steep, but for a railway, it is. In fact, the gradient between Hachihonmatsu and Seno is so steep and, in a way, so famous insofar as gradients can be famous, that it actually has its own name. It's called Senohachi. Seno comes from Seno, obviously enough, where the gradient starts, and Hachi is the first part of Hachihonmatsu, where the gradient ends. Anyway, one of the best places to see the trains on the Senohachi gradient is just here. Not literally just here, because this is a river, but just here at a place called Bandohara. It's a beautiful morning this morning, although, as you can see, there's been quite a heavy frost. Notwithstanding the frost though, I've come to Bandohara to take some photographs and some video today. I'm just coming up now to the level crossing at Bandohara. This is a pretty rural area and it's, to be honest, a pretty small road and therefore a pretty small level crossing. This is a really good place from where to see the trains though, and that's what I'm going to do later, but first there's somewhere else I just want to go. So, this is the crossing itself. As you can see, the road is really quite narrow. It's only just wide enough for one car, really. Anyway, before I start taking photos or videos here, I'm just going to head a little bit further along the road, because a few hundred meters from here, there are a couple of tunnels on the line, and I think I can get some good shots there. First though, there's a train. It's a Red Wing train. All of the passenger services on this section of the Sanyo line are operated by those trains. Okay, I'm close to the tunnels now, and just on time, there's another train. This is a train heading towards Hiroshima and then onto Iwakuni. And this is it disappearing into one of the tunnels. This section of the line was doubled in 1923, and presumably instead of making one larger tunnel, they just dug a second tunnel. You can see this at many places along the line. Anyway, I'm going to head back towards the level crossing now, but I do like this angle for photographs and for videos. It's sort of nicely rural, really. Just before the level crossing at Bandohara, there's this slope. It looks like nothing now, but it's worth explaining. Over the first few days of July 2018, there was torrential rain almost every day. There was huge damage across large parts of western Japan, including in Hiroshima. Just here, the whole of the hillside slipped away and basically buried the railway. The line here didn't open until more than 2 months later, on September the 9th, 2018. It was really an awful time. And, of course, not just in terms of the damage to the railways. Anyway, by the sound of the level crossing bell, there's another train approaching. Okay, so this is a freight train, and this is heading down the gradient, so towards Hiroshima. Down the gradient is all well and good, I suppose, but up the gradient is much better, and there's a simple reason for this. The Senohachi gradient doesn't really pose any problems for passenger trains, but it's steep enough that freight trains can't climb it with just one locomotive pulling. Therefore, freight trains heading up the gradient, like this one in fact, have an extra locomotive attached at the end of the train, the back of the train in other words, to help them up the gradient. These locomotives are attached in Hiroshima and detached in Saijo. And that's the locomotive to help the train up the gradient. So, this is the side of the level crossing that I originally approached from, and another Red Wing service. And yet, another one. Passenger services on this section of the Sanyo line are between 3 carriages and 8 carriages in length. Aha! So this is what I came for. One of the reasons that Bandohara is a good place for train spotting, for want of a better word, is because of the S-curve around the level crossing. Especially with freight trains, which obviously are much longer than passenger trains, it's great to see them snaking around the curve. Yet another Red Wing service, again towards Hiroshima. And just a few seconds away from passing it exactly at the level crossing is this service up the gradient. Passenger services do seem to pass each other fairly close to Bandohara. The Red Wing trains are all well and good, they're nice trains, they're very comfortable, they're quite quiet, but I do really wish there was a little bit more variety, that's all. Anyway, finally another freight train. And another freight train up the gradient, at last. Bandohara and the Senohachi gradient as a whole are well known, famous even, among rail fans in Japan. Firstly, I think because of the location. The curves, as the line snakes its way up the valley, make for very impressive sights. But then, there's also the gradient itself, which means, of course, that like here, there has to be a locomotive at the end of the train. And when you combine the gradient, the location, the curves, and the fact that there has to be the locomotive at the end of the freight train, you get something like this. As I said, the helper locomotives are detached from the train at Saijo, and then they run back down the gradient to Hiroshima as a light engine. Like this one. I really need to head back to Saijo soon, but to be honest, it's quite difficult to leave when every time the level crossing bell rings, there's no way of knowing whether it's a freight train or not. And I really would like to see another one, or possibly, ideally, 2 freights before I go. Unfortunately, this isn't one. And neither, unfortunately again, is this. Nor is this. But this certainly is. I really could stay all day, but unfortunately I have to leave, so I think that Red Wing is going to be the last train for today. Except it's not, because another freight, and it's going up the gradient, so it's got the locomotive at the back. Great. A nice way to finish, I think. And there's the added bonus of a light engine heading back towards Hiroshima. Anyway, that really is it for my time at Bandohara, and indeed for this video, I think. Thank you as ever for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope to see you in another video pretty soon, but bye for now.